The slap came without warning. 1 second, the courtroom was still, papers shuffling, quiet murmurs, the slow creak of old wood, and the next, the sound cracked through the air like something breaking that couldn't be fixed. Her head snapped to the side. Glasses shifted. A thin line of blood traced down from the corner of her lip, steady, deliberate, undeniable. No one moved. Not the judge. Not the bailiff. Not the dozen people sitting close enough to feel it. The officer stood there, jaw tight, chest rising with the kind of authority that had never been questioned. And in the back row, someone watched. He didn't speak. He didn't react. He just stood up and walked out. What that officer didn't realize was that he had just crossed a line that would not stay buried. If you're ready for a story of silence, betrayal, hidden truth, and a moment that changes everything, then you're exactly where you need to be. Subscribe now and turn on notifications, because Silent Voices brings you powerful stories where the unheard finally get their voice. Drop a fire in the comments if you believe justice always finds a way. Let's get into it. The courtroom at Westbridge County had a way of swallowing sound. Not completely, just enough to make everything feel distant. Controlled. Like even anger had to ask permission before it entered the room. Overhead, a ceiling fan turned slowly, its dull rhythm cutting through the stale air. Papers moved. Pens scratched. A clerk coughed once and quickly covered it. At the center of it all stood Mrs. Evelyn Carter. 71 years old. Her posture was straight, not stiff, not forced, but practiced. The kind of posture built over decades of being told, without words, to carry yourself carefully. Her hands rested lightly in front of her. Not trembling. Not clenched. Just still. She wore a simple navy dress, pressed clean. Her gray hair was pulled back neatly, every strand in place like it had something to prove. She wasn't looking at anyone. Not the judge. Not the officer. Just forward. Like she'd done this before. Like she already understood how this room worked. A few feet away, Officer Daniel Hargrove shifted his weight. Mid-30s. Broad shoulders. Uniform crisp to the point of obsession. The badge on his chest caught the overhead light like it needed to be seen. He watched her the way some men watch people they've already decided don't matter. His jaw flexed once. Then again. "Why are you still standing?" he snapped, voice sharp enough to cut through the room without raising it too high. "You hear your name called, you sit down. It's not complicated." A few heads turned. Not toward him. Toward her. Waiting. Measuring. Evelyn didn't respond. Didn't flinch. She simply adjusted her stance, just enough to stay balanced. That was it. And somehow, that made it worse. Hargrove stepped forward. Too fast. Too eager. Like something inside him had been waiting for a reason. "You think this is a game?" he muttered, low enough to sound controlled, loud enough to be heard. The distance between them closed. The room held its breath. And something in the air shifted. Just slightly. But enough. Because moments like that never end quietly. The sound lingered longer than it should have. Not loud anymore, just remembered. Evelyn Carter's head remained turned for a moment, as if time itself had paused to acknowledge what had just happened. Then, slowly, she brought it back to center. Her glasses sat slightly crooked on her face. A thin streak of red traced down from her lip, catching the light before disappearing into the fabric of her collar. She didn't raise a hand to stop it. Didn't speak. Didn't even look at him. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was heavy. A kind of silence people hide inside when they don't want to be seen choosing it. Across the room, someone shifted in their seat. Another person lowered their gaze. A phone lifted briefly, then disappeared again. No one said a word. Officer Hargrove exhaled through his nose, a faint smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth like he had just corrected something out of place. "Should have listened," he muttered, brushing his hand against his uniform as if removing dust. Evelyn reached into her handbag. The movement was slow. Careful. She pulled out a folded handkerchief, white, worn soft with years, and pressed it gently against her lip. Not rushed. Not shaken. Just precise. Like this was something she knew how to do. She adjusted her glasses with 2 fingers, straightened them, and stood exactly as she had before. That was when the room changed. Not visibly. Not dramatically. But enough. Because indifference has a way of echoing louder than pain. In the back row, a chair creaked. Quiet. Almost lost beneath the weight of everything else. A man stood. Tall. Still. Controlled. He didn't look at Hargrove. Not even once. His eyes went straight to Evelyn. They didn't soften. They didn't widen. They just held. Measured. Remembered. Then he turned. No announcement. No hesitation. He walked toward the exit, each step even, deliberate, like he already knew exactly what came next. The door opened with a low groan. Closed just as quietly. And for a brief moment, something followed him out. Not noise. Not attention. Something else. The kind of shift you don't notice until it's too late. Because he hadn't spoken. Hadn't reacted. Hadn't defended her. And somehow, that made it worse. Outside, the air felt different. Not cleaner. Just less controlled. The courthouse steps stretched out under a pale afternoon sky, untouched by what had just unfolded inside. He didn't stop walking. Didn't look back. His pace never changed as he moved past the front entrance, down the block, and around the corner where the cameras didn't reach and the noise didn't follow. 3 streets over, a black sedan sat parked between 2 aging buildings. Unremarkable. Forgettable. He unlocked it without breaking stride. Slid into the driver's seat. Closed the door. Silence. For a moment he just sat there. Hands resting lightly on the wheel. Breathing even. Controlled. Then his fingers moved. A single tap on the dashboard. The screen flickered to life. No logos. No welcome display. Just a dark interface that responded immediately, as if it had been waiting. He entered his credentials without looking. The system accepted them instantly. And then, the footage appeared. Multiple angles. Multiple feeds. The courtroom, replayed in cold precision. He dragged the timeline back. Paused. Frame by frame. Hargrove stepping forward. Evelyn standing still. The hand rising. He stopped it just before impact. Zoomed in. Closer. Closer. Hargrove's face filled the screen. And there it was. Not anger. Not frustration. Something else. Something quieter. Something worse. A flicker in the eyes. Satisfaction. The kind that doesn't come from losing control, but from never having to. He let the frame sit. Studied it. Memorized it. Then exhaled once, slow and measured. His hand reached toward the console. Pulled up a new window. A name entered the system. Daniel Hargrove. The response was immediate. Files. Flags. Records. Not 1. Not 2. Several. His eyes didn't widen. Didn't react. They just moved. Reading. Connecting. Building something underneath the silence. Because this wasn't new. It wasn't isolated. It was a pattern. And patterns leave trails. He leaned back slightly, gaze fixed on the screen as another file opened. Another complaint. Another dismissal. Another name that didn't stay long enough to matter. To anyone else. But to him. They were starting to. And that changed everything. The files didn't stop. They multiplied. 1 complaint became 3. 3 became 7. Each one stamped, filed, and quietly buried beneath language designed to make violence sound procedural. Excessive force, unsubstantiated. Subject resisted, force justified. Witness unavailable. He read them all. Didn't skip. Didn't rush. A construction worker, spine fractured during an arrest. A teenage boy, detained, released, found dead a week later. A nurse, complaint dismissed, evidence inconclusive. Different names? Same outcome. Silence. His finger paused on one entry. Marked closed. Externally reviewed. That line didn't belong. He tapped it. Access denied? The screen didn't flicker. It didn't stall. It simply refused. He stared at it for a second longer than necessary, then opened a second panel. Override request. Credentials entered. Denied again. No hesitation. Just confirmation. That was all he needed. Because systems don't block what doesn't matter. They protect what does. He shifted his focus. Opened communication logs. Filtered by internal contacts. Timestamps surfaced. Late-night calls. Short durations. Repeated numbers. One of them stood out. A private line. Registered to a name that didn't appear in any of Hargrove's official reports, but appeared everywhere else. Something had gone quiet. Judge Alan Whitmore. The pattern tightened. Case filed. Call placed. Case dismissed. Again. And again. And again. He leaned back slightly, eyes narrowing, not in surprise, but in recognition. This wasn't negligence. It was design. Hargrove wasn't operating alone. He was operating safely. Protected. Enabled. A system built not to stop him, but to make sure no one else could. The man in the car didn't speak. Didn't react. But his hand moved once more, opening a secure channel. A short message entered. No emotion. No explanation. Just precision. Initiate full behavioral audit. Subject Daniel Hargrove. He paused. Then added one more line. Include judicial cross-reference. The system accepted. Quietly. Completely. And somewhere beneath layers of policy and protection, something old, and carefully hidden, began to surface. The video didn't stay inside the courtroom. It never does. It started as a clip, shaky, slightly angled, recorded from somewhere in the gallery. No sound at first. Just the moment. The hand. The impact. The stillness that followed. Then it spread. Slowly, and then all at once. By nightfall, it wasn't a clip anymore. It was everywhere. Looped. Slowed. Replayed frame by frame. A 71-year-old woman standing still, absorbing a strike like she had nowhere else to put it. And beside it, a man in uniform, frozen mid-motion. Not out of control. Not reacting. Choosing. That was the part people couldn't ignore. The narrative didn't wait to be explained. It built itself. Comments turned into threads. Threads turned into accusations. Accusations turned into pressure. Old footage surfaced. Interviews. Body cam fragments. Moments that once passed unnoticed, now examined under a different light. And the more people looked, the more they saw. Inside the department, things shifted. Quietly at first. Files reopened. Requests submitted. Emails marked urgent. No one said it out loud, but the tone had changed. Officer Daniel Hargrove wasn't just an officer anymore. He was a problem. A visible one. A recorded one. And visible problems don't stay protected for long. He tried to speak. Tried to control it. A press statement, short, defensive, carefully worded. Context is missing. Situation escalated. Necessary action. But the footage didn't bend. It didn't explain. It didn't justify. It just showed. And showing was enough. By the time the Internal Review Board issued their first response, the decision had already been made somewhere else. Higher. Quieter. Final. Back in the car, the man watched none of it. He didn't need to. His screen displayed something else. A document. Stamped. Authorized. Ready. He picked it up. Read it once. then signed his name at the bottom with steady precision. No hesitation. No second thought. Because this wasn't reaction. It was conclusion. Outside, the city continued as if nothing had changed. Traffic moved. Lights flickered. People passed each other without knowing. But somewhere, behind sealed systems and silent approvals, a process had begun. And this time, it wasn't going to stop halfway. The courtroom looked the same. Same wooden benches. Same quiet air. Same slow-turning fan overhead. But this time, the silence wasn't indifference. It was weight. Officer Daniel Hargrove sat at the defense table, shoulders no longer squared, uniform still pressed, but no longer carrying authority. Just fabric. Across the room, Evelyn Carter walked to the stand. No rush. No hesitation. The same navy dress. The same steady posture. If anything, she looked exactly as she had before. That was what made it different. She took the oath. Sat down. And when she spoke, her voice didn't rise. Didn't break. I remember everything, she said simply. No anger. No performance. Just truth, delivered without permission, without fear. Hargrove didn't look at her. Not once. Because power, once stripped, has nowhere left to stand. In the back of the room, her son remained still. Watching. Not satisfied. Not relieved. Just finished. Because this was never about revenge. It was about correction. And this time, the system didn't look away. Some people think power protects them. But moments like this prove something different. Power only delays the fall, it never prevents it. If you've ever witnessed silence where there should have been accountability, this story was for you. Drop a fire if you believe justice doesn't forget. And stay with us, because the next story goes even deeper.